So you can have what you want.
It's you I want, Joe. None of the other things mean anything without you.
I saw this question on Twitter while researching for this video, and I thought it was an interesting question. So I want to ask you guys to see how you all would respond, because I know my subscribers always have such intelligent and sound dialogue in the comments, right? Right. The question also relates to this video so much. So the question is, how come a half-white person is not considered white, but a half-black person is considered black? This was all due to the whole Drake debacle, but it all will make sense. This question will make so much sense by the time we're finished with this video. And just be mindful to keep all the comments kind, but it's been a back and forth dialogue on Twitter, and there's so many different takes, and it's reminding me of the golden age era of Hollywood for the Black community specifically. Up comes Miss Hilda Simms. The story of Hilda Simms is a very inspiring one. She deserves all the flowers that she got in her time and the flowers she will continue to get today. Being that iconic Black actors during the golden age of Hollywood was not often interviewed or pushed into the mainstream, there is always little known information on these stars, and it is a shame. Hilda Simms was not only gorgeous, but she was sweet. She had such a sultry, deep voice.
Looks like you're in quite a jam.
It's worse than that. Now they say that it wasn't sudden.
I could have told you that from the start.
How?
Girls like that don't kill themselves. They're too busy for that.
She was always well-dressed and polished, and most importantly, loved her community, even when her community didn't always love her back, with headlines often mocking her whenever she voiced her opinions on the discrimination against people of color in Hollywood. To the community, it was just another privileged, light-skinned woman complaining about issues that aren't as deep as the issues of the darker-skinned community. This was a sticky situation for Hilda, but I believe in the end she handled it all with grace, and this topic goes so much deeper and is such a sensitive topic because the community did have their reasons, and it will anger you. And I don't blame them for feeling how they felt, especially with a lot of, lighter skin complexioned actresses and actors of that day. So I completely understand them. But in the same stance, I understand Hilda Simms and women like her. It's just a very unfortunate situation, and I'm going to try to handle it as delicately as possible. Before we get too deep into this story though, first, hey friend, welcome to my channel Creen Allude, where we deep dive and break down the most iconic stars in history. If you're not yet subscribed, please be sure to do so. And if you're already subscribed, please turn on your notification bell so you never miss an upload. Now, without further ado, let's get into this video. Let's start first with her childhood, okay? So Hilda Simms' story kicks off on April 15th, 1918 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. She was the beating heart of a large family, one of 9 kids, and some sources say was 13 kids, some 11, but we're just gonna go with the one that was most reported, which is 9 kids. Again, her story is just all over the place for the most part. But she was born to Emil and Lydia Moses, and try to understand, it was a household bustling with life, grounded in their Roman Catholic faith, with Creole roots adding spice to their heritage. Now, if you're scratching your head wondering, Creole, what's that? For the sake of understanding this video better, let's break it down a little bit. So the Creole culture is like a gumbo pot where French, Spanish, African, and Native American influences simmer together down in Louisiana. But rest assured, I know I'm Haitian and we speak Creole and stuff, but the Creole people are not Haitian. It's something I saw that was Googled a lot. That's not the case, okay? Although we had our own culture of what Creoles was, we call them mulatres and mulat, aka mulatto, the mulatto in English. So they had their own kind of culture from the Spanish and French also. By the 1800s, this mix had cooked up something special. Whether you were black, white, or mixed race, calling yourself Creole set you apart from the newcomers and gave you a certain prestige and advantage over others who weren't, But here's where it gets a little tricky. So Creole wasn't just a one flavor deal. To white people back then, it meant you were part of a mixed culture club. But to the French and Spanish whites, Creole was VIP only. No others need apply, right? Meanwhile, free blacks Native Americans, and other mixed-race folks were labeled gens de couleur libre, but they flipped the script and claimed Creole as their own badge of honor. Over time, Creoles carved out a space for themselves, snagging rights usually reserved for whites, owning property, and getting educated. They were like the creme de la creme of mixed-race people, right? Very prestigious. The Spaniards even handed out grants to free slaves who then bought their families out of bondage, and talk about a power move, especially for that era. But fast forward past the Civil War, because the Civil War changed everything, and the Creoles of color found themselves sliding down the social ladder, their status knocked down a few pegs alongside free black slaves. So after the Civil War, they were considered just like the average black by the white and Spanish, white looking Spanish community. Yet Creole hung on as a label, sometimes causing a bit of confusion when it got slapped onto upper class whites and, oddly enough, even Cajuns. So there were some people that looked white, even blonde hair, that were claiming to be Creole. So there was a little bit of confusion from that. Fast forward to today, and Creole mainly nods to folks with African roots, whether they're mixed or not. And there was always these old tensions based on skin color. So after the Civil War, it became a thing where a lot of black people that always felt like the Creoles thought they were so much better because their close proximity to whites, now you're just like us, they were having a difficult time accepting them back into the community. And it became a thing of, we don't really care for whatever complaints you're having, because it was like for the first time, the Creoles were really experiencing discrimination. They weren't able to just get property like before, or, work unless you were white passing and you just completely ignored the other side of what you were mixed with and just pretended to be white, you and your whole family. You just didn't have the same opportunities that you would have in the past. But for those who were Creole, but you could still kind of tell that they're mixed with something, the black community wasn't too accepting of them, and then white community wasn't accepting them either. So they were kind of, in limbo of, okay, we're having an identity crisis. On this side, they don't really want anything to do with us. There's actually resentment on this side. And on that side, it's the same thing. They don't even want us to claim them, So here we are. But even with that, it was still more beneficial for you to be lighter skinned or Creole roots, because you were still more palatable, if that makes sense, to audiences and people, especially in entertainment. The lighter you were, the more palatable you were. So it's not that they were super privileged, but they were less polarizing to people. It's just so bad. But now with that in mind, let's get back to Hilda, okay? Hilda was raised in a devout Catholic family. She and her siblings walked miles to school every day, all to attend the Basilica of St. Mary. And Hilda's mom was such a strict Catholic that when Hilda landed a role in the Broadway hit Anna Lucasta, her mom Lydia put her foot down, refusing to watch her daughter play a quote-unquote streetwalker, a prostitute, you catch my drift. So Lydia's stance, she said, I didn't raise her that way, so she did not support her daughter's career. Before Hilda became a huge Broadway star, Hilda eyed a career in teaching, dipping her toes into dramatic studies at the University of Minnesota. But as fate would have it, money problems forced her to ditch those plans. And that is how Hilda Simms went from aspiring teacher to Broadway sensation, all while navigating the complexities of her Creole heritage and family expectations. Hilda Simms took a leap into the heart of New York's buzzing scene, where she dived into the world of radio dramas and snagged a spot at the American Negro Theater. Here, she wasn't just acting, she became a jack of all trades, mastering everything from eerie sound effects to managing props and getting the word out about their shows. In the whirlwind of New York, she fell for William Simms, tied the knot, and even after their love story hit its final act with a divorce, she held onto the Simms name like a badge of honor. 1943 was a game changer for Hilda. She landed the lead in Anna Lucasta, a play originally panned for an all-white cast. But when the American Negro Theater got their hands on it, They turned it into something unforgettable, launching it all the way to Broadway in 1944. This wasn't just another show. It was a pioneering drama that put African American actors front and center, tackling themes beyond race. But Hilda wasn't one to sit still. While touring with Anna Lucasta overseas, she moonlighted as Julie Ricardo, serenading the Paris nightlife with her sultry vocals. It was during this British tour in 1947 that she bumped into Richard Ngarola, an actor with a resume as lengthy as a Shakespeare play. Sparks flew, vows were exchanged, and together they headed back to the States. The 1950s promised a glittering film career for Hilda. She wowed London audiences in The Gentle People, played the boxer's wife alongside Joe Louis, which was my favorite, and the Joe Louis story. I loved her in there. Joe Louis, the character that played Joe Louis, looked just like him also.
Mama, this is the Joe Louis.
I'm happy to meet you, Mr. Lewis. We've heard such wonderful things about you.
Thank you. Are you the Detroit girl?
No, I live in Chicago. I'm just here for a visit.
Where about in Chicago?
I'm in the book. So you all got set back a little. Now you gotta make up for lost time. Lost time. Counted on you. Counted on the money they make on you. What about me? I miss you so much at times. Getting to feel it's a kind of weakness. It's not easy. And I'm proud of you. But I want to be with you.
And then turned heads as Anne and Black Widow. Just as Hollywood seemed ready to roll out the red carpet for her, it pulled the rug out from under her feet with the Blacklist scandal. So what was the Blacklist scandal? In 1955, the U.S. Department of Justice clamped down hard, yanking her passport and axing her USO tour over whispers of her former Communist Party ties. You know, it's kind of like the Red Scare. They thought she was a communist sympathizer. So they started blacklisting her. All the doors that had been flung open for her suddenly slammed shut, leaving her film career a pile of a might have been. Refusing to be silenced, Hilda fought back with her pen, spilling her truth in a 1960 article, I'm No Benedict Arnold. She didn't stop there. She breathed life into Blanche Dubois in A Streetcar Named Desire, both off-Broadway and with an all-white cast in Wisconsin, proving her talent refused to be boxed in. By 1959, Hilda dreamed up a one-woman show for college crowds, offering a mix of love letters from history's most notorious courtesans and the finest poetry. She hoped it would spark a new troupe of Black professional actors. Her stage presence continued to dazzle. Hilda's talents weren't confined to the stage. She made waves on TV in The Nurses, hosted her own radio show, Ladies' Day, and narrated Great Negro Americans alongside Frederick O'Neill. She stepped into the political arena, leading creative arts for the New York State Human Rights Commission. And finally, Hilda circled back to her first love, which was teaching. She earned a master's degree in education from the City College of New York, proof that no matter how many times the script of her life was rewritten, she remained the star of her own show. Hilda Simms died in Buffalo, New York at age 75 from pancreatic cancer, and her legacy just continued to live on. But now that we got her life out of the way, let's focus on a little bit of some of the woes that she had to deal with. They're specifically being light-skinned. Hilda Simms was beyond frustrated, okay? The acting world offered barely a handful of roles to Black women, and the ones that were available, well, they were downright, problematic prejudice, or the R word, for lack of a better word, or just plain insulting. Chatting with Jet magazine, she spilled the tea on how her lighter skin saved her from the most cliched Black roles, yet her heritage slammed the door shut on any white character possibilities. Though it was a privilege to be lighter skinned because she didn't have to play the Mammy or even the Jezebel role. She played more normal roles, It still wasn't the roles that she wanted. The support from the Black community, especially for light-skinned woes, was pretty much non-existent at that time. So they were pretty annoyed with her. Like, you're still not playing these problematic roles. It's just because it's not the roles you wanted. You want us to feel sorry for you? In other words, that's what they were saying. Enter the topic of colorism. Favoritism based on skin tone has been around forever, throwing more hurdles in the paths of those with darker skin, while sometimes giving those lighter skinned a leg up, or so it seemed. African Americans have always had to get creative with their self-representation, dodging mainstream movie roles to avoid stereotypes, or even creating their own race movies in the early 1900s that told richer stories and showcased more diverse characters. And I've talked about race movies before. I've done breakdowns for a lot of stars that have been in race movies. This ongoing battle against discrimination has left its mark on cinema history. So highlighting a clear bias in casting, Hollywood has had a long-standing preference for lighter-skinned actors for leading roles, while darker-skinned talents were often stuck playing caricatures. This unfair categorization left many in the community feeling trapped, unable to simply exist without being pigeonholed. The pressure was very intense, pushing some lighter-skinned African Americans to try passing as white to snatch up more opportunities. This is what the Donna Drake video is about. She actually fooled people into believing she was white. This movie only cranked up the tension within the Black community because it was like, they were thinking it was pretty unfair how some people was able to just pass like that. Those who couldn't pass found other extremes to lighten their appearance, sometimes even tweaking their makeup to appear whiter on screen. And when it came to promoting race films, the posters would sometimes bleach the actors so much they looked almost white. This whitewashing wasn't just about aesthetics. It fed into a dangerous narrative. As Black-owned theaters popped up showcasing these distorted images and stories, it planted a toxic seed. Young, darker-skinned kids started believing dark skin was something bad, dirty, or evil, driving some towards harmful skin lighting practices like bleaching their skin, and the whole situation was a mess, illustrating just how deep the scars of colorism and Hollywood's bias standards cut into the fabric of the Black community. And even men were getting permed or relaxers to kind of straighten their hair. It led on even to the civil rights era of like Malcolm X even used to perm his hair before. Like it just was a very problematic culture. So back in the early 1900s, Hollywood was pretty much a whites only club with a few lighter skinned folks making the cut. Darker skinned actors, they hardly stood a chance. And on the rare occasion they did get on screen, it was usually just to play into some ugly stereotypes. Hollywood was all too keen on using dark-skinned talent to spin a twisted tale about how all Black people supposedly looked and behaved. Not every dark-skinned actor wanted to or could pass as white, yet many found themselves smeared with blackface, a makeup technique that exaggerated skin tones and facial features to mock and belittle. It was all about slapping on a caricature of Blackness for laughs or shock. Take the Song of Freedom starring Paul Robeson, where even Robeson's skin was darkened. And also Lena Horne, I did a video for her too. They used to darken her skin too. She was just too light skinned on screen, and white people weren't comfortable with how light skinned she was. So they did makeup specifically for her to darken her skin. That was just crazy to me. The aim to paint African Americans as wild, uncouth, and nothing more than a joke. Fed up with these demeaning portrayals, African American audiences said enough was enough. From the 1910s to the 1950s, Black movie theaters started popping up everywhere, screening what we know as race movies today, where many of these race movies are lost. You cannot really find them like that. It's just very unfortunate. These movies were tailored for Black viewers with all Black casts, and these films set out to trash the tired old stereotypes. Instead, they showcased Black actors in roles that felt real, that audiences could actually see themselves in. And despite churning out hundreds of these race films, mainstream recognition remained a dream. But these efforts didn't go unnoticed. They were a bold clapback to discrimination, a testament to the creativity and resilience of African Americans faced with Hollywood's colorism. Fast forward to today, and you'd hope things have changed, but guess what? It hasn't changed. Finding decent roles is still a huge struggle for Black actors, dragged down by the same old issues of colorism and typecasting that have hunted Hollywood for way too long. Even in the music industry, the film industry, the ones that are at the top of the food chain are usually never dark-skinned. It's just very unfortunate. This is why actresses like Hilda Simms was seen as ungrateful and just complaining about her privilege as a Creole light-skinned Black woman that could pass if she wanted to. She really could have passed if she wanted to. Even though she fought for the advancement of the people in film and was a strong voice in regard to civil rights, she also became an active participant in political movements and served as the creative arts director for the New York State Human Rights Commission. But of course, none of that mattered. They did not care about that. They didn't care how much she did. It was just very bad. And if you haven't seen my Nina Mae McKinney video, it's giving that same vibe, actually. I'm going to put my Nina Mae McKinney video in the comments for you guys and pin it, because she had to go through the same things with the Black community. They just felt, you know, I mean, I don't want to get too deep into the politics of it, but I'll leave you guys to discuss that in the comment sections. But it was unfortunate because Hilda Simms didn't really get the recognition I feel she could have gotten. She played some very good roles, and she successfully learned how to, you know, maneuver herself in the industry and be around the who's who's and stuff, kind of like Nina Mae McKinney, and be your own people. That's the title of that. That one is just an even wilder story, but check out the pinned comments for that. But she really did a lot of great I love her and Joe Louis story, and I think it's free here on YouTube. You can just put the Joe Louis story, and it's pretty old, but it's still good, very entertaining. The people look amazing in there. You guys will enjoy the movie, and she did a fantastic job. But not much, just like Nina Mae McKinney, is written about her because the people didn't really like her. The people didn't really like her like that, and it's unfortunate. But she was popular. But still, it was just kind of like, it didn't matter her talent. It didn't matter her skills. It was just, she couldn't speak. So I beg to ask a question in that era. Like, I do understand their plight. They were fed up of not getting opportunities. And any group of people, it's, imagine if you had siblings, right? And you're the dark-skinned sibling, and all your other siblings are light-skinned, and you're the one that gets ignored, that they get more food than you, they get affection or love or more opportunities, and you're constantly rejected. At some point, you're gonna feel away. Like, you're gonna feel away, especially if that sibling tries to be super nice to you. It's not their fault. They didn't ask to be born with the skin color that they're in. None of us chose the skin color that we're in. It's not our fault. But in the same, we were trained, you know, through society norms, and a whole other community got into the heads of one community to have them hate each other, to pit skin color against each other. And it's just very unfortunate. And it's unfortunately the same way in the Caribbean islands, you know, and it's unfortunately that way in a lot of the African diaspora, that colorism is just such a huge deal. And there's, on both sides, it's just really bad. You know, it's really bad. And I feel like no one chooses their color. No one chooses their identity. We don't even choose our parents or our gender or anything. I'm talking about when you come out of the womb. You don't choose nothing. You don't choose what region you're born into, what culture you're born into, what state, city, the house, the family. You don't choose your family. You don't choose nothing. Isn't that crazy? You're just born to these people that decided to make love, and a mother who carried you 9 months, and then you come out not choosing anything, and then you got to learn hate. You have to learn love. You have to learn, okay, do I have the complexion for protection, or is my complexion going to alienate me from even identifying with one group or another? So it begs a question that was asked on Twitter. Why it was relevant is because there's been a discussion with the whole Drake thing. That's why I saw it. And, you know, the whole Drake and Kendrick Lamar situation. And Drake now, by everyone who doesn't like him, is being called a white boy. He's no longer Black. There's like, no, let's call biracial. And I've seen a lot of discourse where it's like, let's have biracials have their own category. They cannot be considered Black because white people don't consider biracials white. So why do we as Black people have to keep welcoming biracials as Black? They need to just be biracial. That's your title. We are Black, they are white, you're biracial. Now y'all been together and create your own community. That has been the discord. And it's so complex and sensitive. I'm not going to get deep into it. Like I said, this is as far as I will go with it. I won't necessarily say my opinion, except that it's just very sad that in 2024, these topics are still happening. It's just really, really sad. The topic of race, and I don't know, it's just very, very unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate. And I really cannot wait for the day that it's not a thing. But comment below. Another question. Do you think that the topic of race and colorism will ever die out? Do you think there will ever be a day in society where it will not matter? I'm curious to know. Me personally, I don't believe so. Until we get to heaven, I think it will always be an issue. But are you guys optimistic that one day this will not be a topic? But this is what people like Hilda Simms was dealing with, where it was like, you're not black, but also white people was telling her, you're not white. And so it's just like, you're Creole, stay Creole, or stay biracial. We don't claim you from either side. I don't know. It's almost like, in a way, it would discourage people from interracial dating, because even women that are, there's a lot of women that are in the movement of, they talk about colorism a lot, right? They talk about colorism and they're darker skinned and they believe in interracial dating, but they also don't like the privilege of lighter skinned women. But I'm like, if you were to have a child with your white husband, what if you have an interracial daughter? How are you going to talk to her? I've always thought this. Same with black guys who speak against biracials, but then they're into interracial dating. It's just vice versa for white people that date black. Like, how are you going to talk to your daughter? How can you promote one without the other? Anyways, that was the case with the community. It's because the community did not really embrace biracials, but many were marrying interracially. So it was like conflicting. How can you not support biracials, but you guys are creating biracials? Why you keep creating a group that you don't like? Food for thought. But I'll leave it there. Don't come for me, y'all. We're just having an educated discussion. I love you guys so much. Comment below who else would you guys like me to do a video for. Check out my Nina Mae McKinley video and my Donna Drake video. And if you like the music you listen to, the link is in the description. Until next time.